All right, all right. Welcome to another episode of Only Comics. I'm Mike. This is Adrian.
Hello, hello, hello.
What's up, man? How we doing?
Another fine day in New England.
Absolutely, bro. Another day in paradise.
That's it.
And here we are, another week with on Only Comics. So, we got a handful of stuff to go through today, Adrian. There's a lot of stuff going on in the news as always.
Okay.
We have a lot of new viewers too. So,
Okay.
I noticed that we do a lot on TikTok, and they get to see, little shorts of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we get judged a little unfairly on TikTok, okay?
Okay.
Because they're only seeing a little snippet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I had a guy a few weeks ago say, this is supposed to be only comics, and you guys are discussing things other than comics. Like, yes, what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my point is, if you saw our full show, you would know that. Because this podcast started as a joke.
Right.
Like, let's be fair, right? We were joking around.
Mm-hmm.
You, me, another guy we worked with, actually Chris, who was here,
Right.
last week. He's kind of our, reoccurring guest here on the show. He's like Wilson from Home Improvement. He just pops up every once in a while. But it really started as a joke, right? Like, we bullshit about comics. We both love comics growing up. And we said, imagine if we just hit record on some of our conversations, put out a podcast, people would love it.
That's right.
Right? I mean, that's essentially, so when people go like, you guys are not experts, we actually are not experts. That's 100% right.
Not only are we not experts, we told you we're not experts. We pretty much tell you that every week.
Every week, over and over, yeah. So like, you guys don't know stuff. No, you're 100% right. We don't know everything. We know that we're fans.
Exactly.
We're only fans. Well, we're not only fans. We will keep all of our clothes on. I promise that.
Right.
You could pretty soon you'll be able to get these clothes.
There you go.
This merch, if you will. But this started as a joke, and it's going to remain a joke. Like not like but like we have fun.
Exactly.
We don't take ourselves too serious. I may say something this week, Adrian. I may say the complete opposite thing next week.
Sure. Because you have a right to change your mind.
Sure. Absolutely. So we may see some of that this week. Who knows? But we got some fun stuff to get into. And, actually, before we move on, subscribe if you have not already. Like this video. Share it with your friend who likes comics because, if you like it, why wouldn't they, right? But each week we like to go through news and rumors here on Only Comics. And we got some official news. So this past week, Adrian, Deadpool 3 is a movie we briefly discussed last week. It's an up-and-coming movie. Comes out in, I think, July of this year. Mm-hmm. And they announced that they officially wrapped shooting this past week. So all the shooting's done. And I think, why this is news is we had the strike last year, right? Mm-hmm. The writers' strike, the actors, the screenwriters, and I think the directors. But anyways, that pushed a lot of movies back, and this was one of them. Okay. But the fact that this thing wrapped up shooting tells me that it probably will hit its release date. I don't think it will be pushed back any further. I'm glad. I'm looking forward to this. This was my pick last week, Adrian, when we talked about all the upcoming movies, and if there was only one we'd be able to see in the theaters, I picked Deadpool 3. Now, are you a big Deadpool fan? Like, were you a fan of Deadpool in the comics?
I wasn't. Deadpool is a relatively new person to me. I've seen him.
Yeah.
You kind of flash over him. But not really a big fan of him.
Got it. What about when the movies came out?
When the movies came out, it actually, unlike She-Hulk, right? I thought She-Hulk was more serious than what she is.
Right.
So when I saw the Disney show, I was disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't really delve into who she was. But I knew
never
more
read
about
She-Hulk comics.
No. But I knew more about her than I did about Deadpool.
Okay.
Now, when I saw Deadpool for the first time on the big screen, it was a whole different experience.
Right.
I enjoyed him. I still enjoy, the character.
Yeah.
So I didn't have these preconceived ideas about who the character was. So no, I'm enjoying the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of saying, but I knew of Deadpool. I never read any Deadpool comics.
Right.
And I didn't know that he was as funny as he is. I didn't know that he broke the fourth. I didn't know any of that. Right. And that kind of follows the trend of the comics. And it's funny you bring up She-Hulk because that's one that I didn't read the comics either. I read some afterwards, and I will say that show is very comic accurate.
Okay.
I've seen panels where She-Hulk comes out of the panel and talks about the writers just like she did at the end. So it was it's meant to be kind of like this show, meant to be a little bit of a joke.
Okay. So it was true to script.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So, hey, if you didn't then you probably didn't like She-Hulk comics either. Some people go, it's so bad. I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was.
Right.
You know, it's not on my list of like favorite MCU series. I'm not in a rush to rewatch it. But I mean, the first two Deadpool movies I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I think what was cool about it too was, if you remember in X-Men Origins, the Wolverine movie, Ryan Reynolds played a version of Deadpool, a really shitty version of Deadpool.
Right.
But I liked his Wade Wilson in that. Like, if you remember the elevator scene with the swords, like that was a pretty cool scene when he cuts the bullet in half or whatever. Like, we got to see a little tease of what it could be. And then, you know, a few years later, he kind of got his redemption in the Deadpool movie. And I think he nailed the role. I mean, I love Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not only did he redeem himself for the previous Deadpool, he redeemed himself from that Green Lantern fiasco, right?
Yeah.
So, no, it's like I said, there's certain people that nail certain roles, and Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool, it was like it was meant to be.
Yeah. I would say that for movie costumes, superhero costumes, I think the Deadpool costume ranks way at the top. I think that is one of the best on-screen like representation. It looks very comic accurate, but looks cool on screen as well.
Well, is it accurate because they haven't evolved it? Like, if they turn it into like some Dark Knight, some black stealth costume, I mean, so because we didn't really pay attention to Deadpool before, now he's on big screen, that suit is the suit.
Right.
Unlike, you know, we go all the way back to the Adam West Batman, and we've seen, you know, the gray and yellow, you know, and then the gray and the darker gray and the gray and the blue, and now we got this, you know, Mach 5 stealth black, whatever he's got with the padding. So we haven't had a chance to be disappointed by costume changes with Deadpool. Yeah. And I hope they keep it that way. Yeah. I mean, I hope they keep the costume because it's cool the way it is.
Absolutely. And we saw, you know, so Deadpool 3, there a lot of official news was leaked. Like, there was a lot of leaks with this movie, a lot of on-set photos. And, you know,
and I'm sure Ryan Reynolds has something to do with that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you almost want to get upset, but it's such a big movie that it's bound to have. That means that there's crazy interest in it. Right. People are finding out where they're shooting the film, and they get, you know, their little telephotic lenses and shoot, or maybe it's your Samsung phone. You know, like you shoot the moon or whatever.
Right. Just pop a drone up in the sky like 10 miles away with a telescopic lens, and you're all set.
You think Marvel has people on set like to shoot down drones if someone tries to fly?
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I really wouldn't be surprised. But I'm saying this drone stuff as a joke, but I mean the technology is out there. I mean, you can get these, you know, drones that lift a little Volkswagen or something. I'm exaggerating, of course. But I mean, you can get drones pretty inexpensively, and telephoto lenses pretty inexpensively. So you can do a lot of you can hurt a lot of people. Well,
they did it. You know, they leaked a lot of stuff, and some of it was confirmed. Like, we got to see the Wolverine blue and yellow suit, which I thought looks really cool. Allegedly, he's going to rip the sleeves off at some point. Allegedly, he's supposed to wear the full mask. That'd be cool to see.
Right.
But I think it's about time, you know. Yeah. Now, out of the two Deadpool movies, which one would you say is a better movie?
What's the one we use on the highway? The first one?
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be that one. Yeah. That was the coolest scene. That, you know, really he's just sitting up there waiting for stuff to come down the pike, and you know, he just falls into this van and this whole fiasco. So it was the first one, definitely. Yeah, because it also introduced me and solidified in my mind who Deadpool was. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that when he only had, like, I don't know, 10 bullets or something. And he, like, I love the scene where he kind of, like, comes back from around the car, and there's, like, I think there's maybe 4 guys lined up, and he shoots all of them through the head. Like,
one bullet.
Yeah, one bullet. But, but I also really enjoyed the second one. I go back and forth. You know, I thought, for me, it's weird that, I'll say this, the Deadpool movies feel like they take place in the X-Men universe more than the X-Men movies do.
I can agree with that.
Right? That should have been a agree to disagree.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think because it feels authentic. Yeah. There's nothing to kind of like agree or disagree with the Deadpool movies, but I mean, because we spend so much time in the X-Men universe, it's like, oh, that's wrong, and that actor and that actress and that blah 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 blah. So we have more to I guess
pick apart
with the X-Men than we do with Deadpool. Right.
And I'll say, you know, I think they fucked it up a little more, and that's what they did with X-Men.
Well, I was trying to be nice.
Adrian's being nice today. You must have like something planned later on. But all right, so Deadpool wraps up filming. Todd McFarlane, he is talking about Spawn episode 350, and he says it's a great jumping on point for new fans. Todd McFarlane says he will never reboot or restart Spawn, which I can respect that. And I just think this is cool because Spawn is the longest running independent comic book series ever. This is not a Marvel or DC comic. We talk a lot about Marvel on here, a little bit about DC, whenever they decide to kind of get their heads out of their asses, hopefully soon. But we Marvel heavy content, right? I've always been a Spawn fan. We discussed Spawn a little bit here, but I think this is really cool that Spawn's been around for over 30 years, episode 350, and I like that, McFarlane says that it's a great jumping on point, because that's always like sometimes my struggle with comics where if it's a series I've never read, but it's been around for like 30 plus years, I don't necessarily want to go read a bunch of stuff from the 80s and 90s.
Right.
The way the comics look versus now. Like, you can find some really cool stuff, but I like to read some more modern comics. Okay. But I also don't want to jump in on a character and not know anything. Right. So it's kind of cool that this is supposed to be a good jumping on point for new fans. But 350 episodes, independent comic, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, like She-Hulk, I really didn't. I've gleaned Spawn.
Yeah.
The movie was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't get into the animated series, even though you just told me about it.
So awesome.
So I got to watch that.
Yeah.
But he's a really cool character. Again, one of those characters where I didn't know much about, so they really couldn't spoil it for me, except that massive cape in the movie.
He's getting bigger.
So I hope they do him justice if he ever gets it back onto the big screen.
Yeah. And I saw the cover for this. I don't know who drew it, but it's a really cool Spawn photo. I've always loved the way that Spawn was drawn, especially early on when Todd McFarlane drew him. Like, to your point, the cape was so unique looking. Like, it didn't look like anyone else's cape in comics. If we ever had a contest of best capes, I think, he may be up there.
Right.
I just thought of agree to disagree for all my Superman fans out there. Maybe next week. All right, next up, Daredevil, Born Again. Dude, the more I hear about this show, I get more and more hyped. So I didn't tell you this. I finished Jessica Jones' first season. Okay. I never watched the Netflix shows, until recently. So I've seen Daredevil season 1, Jessica Jones season 1, which I really enjoyed.
Okay.
Speaking of the Seven and the Boys, Erin Moriarty, I forget how to say her last name, but Starlight from Seven or from the Boys is actually in this. She plays Hope, the girl that Kilgrave forced to kill her parents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot younger, but Jessica Jones was fun, and now I'm about halfway through Daredevil season 2, which holy shit, dude. Punisher off the charts. Like, those fight scenes, and we talked a lot about Echo with the Daredevil fight scene. Yeah. And it almost like that kind of reminds you of some of these fights that you see in the show. But season 2 so far, great. But you're a big fan of the Daredevil series, right?
Yeah, I'm going to actually go back before this one comes out and just rewatch it again, because there's a lot of, nooks and crannies. You spend a lot of time, 2 o'clock in the morning, phasing in and out. So I got to go back and watch it all over again.
Yeah. It was a fun show. Brutal. I say fun, but fun to watch. Very brutal, and just very well done. Like, the story, all the characters are well written. But the reason it's in the news right now is this has just started to shoot, and of course some photos leaked. But Nelson, Murdoch, and Paige are all back for Daredevil Born Again. This was a rumor we reported a few weeks ago, and guess what? Turned out to be true.
Cool.
So there are some set photos. Foggy's got a nice little haircut, so he's grown up a little bit. Karen Page is back, and I love those characters. Like, their dynamic between the three is just freaking awesome. So I'm psyched to see them back.
Yeah, I was psyched to see Karen Page in anything. I'm a big fan of hers from this New Orleans vampire show that she was in. I forget the name of it. Yeah. But that was a pretty cool show back then. So it's good that they brought her back and not killed them off scene or whatever stupid stuff.
That's what they were going to do at first. Yeah. Like, thank God they listened to us. Like, I think they have to be watching. Because did we not say that would be stupid? Right. Why would, you shouldn't do Daredevil without Karen and Foggy.
Absolutely. Well, to be fair, like you said, before, the executives themselves might not be watching, but they have someone watching for them.
Exactly. Same people that are leaking these,
exactly.
The trusted sources. Yes. That's who it's the trusted sources.
It's the trusted. There we go. It
definitely is. Are you a fan of the Punisher character?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the guy, interestingly enough, he got killed off from the Walking Dead show.
Okay.
So that he can, I think, I'm just saying.
John Bernthal,
whatever his name was. Yeah, he got killed off from the Walking Dead shows so that he can do this show. I think. I didn't do any research on it. It's just that it lined up where he left this one show and went into the other one. But great Punisher. I love the prison scene.
Yeah.
When he was like, it's almost like killing and fighting is his mutant ability or something because he's just so good at it.
Right.
So I mean. And that's what I like because I got a hidden gem later and hidden gems is all about characters where their powers aren't portrayed properly or people just don't know the full power set of them. Yeah. Well, this guy, the Punisher, I mean, that prison scene puts his talents and abilities on top shelf.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did a good job in that scene. So very big Punisher fan.
Yeah, and this guy is great at, his portrayal of Punisher's been great.
Yeah.
He's actually he'll be in this Daredevil show, which is
okay.
Cool. Yeah, he's coming back.
Cool.
And then, my man Vinny D's coming back as Fist. We've talked about that a bunch. I think this show, dude, it's shaping up to be one of the better MCU shows, and I'm glad they decided to put a lot into this, and this is supposedly going to lead into the next Spider-Man movie.
Okay.
With Fisk, Daredevil. And we've said this before here. It's rumored to be somewhat of a street-level civil war. So we may see Spider-Man and Daredevil at odds. I'm
thinking that then if it's street-level war, they got to bring Elektra in there, back in there. I just hope they don't reconstitute Jennifer Gardner. Just bring back a younger version of Jennifer Gardner. I love Jennifer Gardner and her movies and stuff. She's great in them. Yeah. But no.
Yeah, no, I like the I don't know her name, but the chick who plays Elektra in Daredevil. I just got to that episode where he comes home and she's like sitting on the couch waiting for him.
See, that's why I got to go back and watch. Yeah. So that's probably one of those 2:15 a.m. phasing out
that's when
moments.
You doze out. You woke up next episode. She's already there.
Exactly.
But so speaking of Spider-Man 4, there's a rumor right now that Marvel Studios and Sony are at odds over the Spider-Man 4 storyline. So we had reported a rumor a few weeks ago. The rumor was that Kingpin would show up in this.
Okay.
Now, they've asked Vinny D about this, and he says that he's not been contacted by Marvel about this movie yet, which really... I can't do anything with that statement because Andrew Garfield said he still says he's not in No Way Home, and I seen him in the movie, he was denying this shit they never contacted me, and then my man was the first one to show up, through the portal. So you never really know. And honestly, what is he going to do? Tell you yes? Like if he is? But the rumor about them being at odds is what the trusted source reported was that Marvel wants to make this the grounded story. Like you think about how No Way Home ended. Peter Parker, no one knows who Spider-Man is anymore. No one knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. All his friends forgot who he was. He lost Aunt May. He doesn't have Uncle Ben in this story. Parents are dead. He has nobody.
Right.
And he's got no money. Tony Stark's dead. That we confirmed that Happy Hogan doesn't know who he is because he saw him at the grave, had no idea who the kid was.
Right.
He's on his own now. He's so he is very street level.
Yep.
So it would make sense to kind of go more in that
sure
towards that type of story. But the rumor also says that Sony wants to replicate the No Way Home's box office success, and we know how stupid Sony is. They think the only way to do that is by having another multiverse Spider-Man type of movie. Which I do when I hear that. Yeah, that the face you just had. I wish the camera was on you. That's how I feel inside.
Yeah, nah, it's a bad move.
Yeah,
just like superhero movies are actually played out. I mean, we are, like Chris said last week, we are oversaturated with superhero movies. But even more so. We're oversaturated with this multiverse thing because it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and more out of control. It's hard for people to follow, and it's nonsensical.
Right.
It basically just allows them to pull whatever tricks they want to, which basically just going to end up making them lose, viewers. So I think it's a bad move if they go with the multiverse thing. They should just, like you said, just have a street level war, and I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, you guys pulled it off great in No Way Home. let that be.
Right.
Let that be. No Way Home came out in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to. We don't need another Thanos snap right now, right? We don't need another big multiverse Spider-Man team up. We got that. Let that thing, because what they're gonna do is they're gonna dilute it. Oh, now we just saw it. Now we saw it again a few years later, and it's gonna kind of remove the impact of that moment for me.
Right. I mean, look at Clint Eastwood. I mean, you don't see him riding around in space vehicles and teleporting. Most of his Academy Awards has been some old dude sitting in a raggedy ass pickup truck, running drugs or whatever. Yep. I mean, I'm not saying that movie won an Academy Award, but he has played these movies that were engaging. Mm-hmm. I'm not in superhero movies, comic book movies have risen to that where it's equal to a movie. Even the animation is considered a movie now, not just animation.
Exactly.
So make good movies and stop doing all this multiverse AI trickery, and you'll get more fan base.
Yep, absolutely. You heard it here on Only Comics. All right, so we like to wrap up the news, Adrian, with thumbs up or thumbs down every week here on Only Comics. So I'm going to recap each segment, and we're just going to let you know, if we like the rumor or not, or if that piece of news, if we're giving a thumbs up or thumbs down. So Deadpool 3 officially wrapped this past week. All the shooting's done, means hopefully they're on track for a July release. I'm giving this a thumbs up.
I agree, thumbs up.
Todd McFarlane's talking issue 350 of Spawn. Spawn's the longest-running independent comics, been around for 30 years. He says he'll never reboot the series. He'll never restart it, but it's a great jumping-on point for new fans. All around, I give this a thumbs up, dude.
I agree. 2 thumbs up. It's like thumbs up for the 30-year anniversary, and a thumbs up about the reboot, and thumbs up about staying in the game.
Absolutely. I mean, being an independent, with Marvel and DC being these two, huge entities, and lasting 30 years with a successful comic, that's awesome. Speaking of Marvel, Nelson, Murdoch, and Page confirmed to be back for the Daredevil Born Again. Nice. I'm giving this a huge thumbs up.
Definitely thumbs up.
And then last but not least, Sony and Marvel rumored to be at odds over the script for Spider-Man 4. Marvel wants to go in a more grounded street-level story, and Sony wants to be stupid and go right back to the multiverse. So I'm giving this a thumbs down.
Thumbs down overall, but thumbs up for Marvel trying to make it. Because they listen to us. Right. Apparently, Sony, they haven't caught wind yet of Only Comics. So, Sony, get on the Only Comics bandwagon and just get rid of the Tom Cruisery. Right. And everybody, all would be well in this universe.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Sony, but Sony's always late to the party. Think about their movies they're making, Venom and Morbius. Those are movies that should have been put out in the early 2000s. They feel like 2000s. They feel like Ghost Rider and movies like that.
Right.
So they're late to the trend. They'll find Only Comics like when we're on episode 400. We'll be like Spawn on 350, and all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, look, there they are. So anyways, that's the news for this week. Adrian, next up, your segment, Hidden Gem. You kind of teased us a little bit earlier. If you've never checked out a Hidden Gem, I would say tune in right now. Pay attention. Adrian will break down some character, like he said earlier, someone who is the powers have not really been portrayed properly on screen. Fair?
Fair, yep.
And sometimes the character just hasn't been. We've had Dr. Doom on here.
Right.
Obviously most people know who he is, but we've never seen a great Dr. Doom portrayal.
Right.
Who's one, too? I was thinking about this over the weekend. Cyclops. Has he ever been portrayed properly on screen?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. He's a dick.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like him.
Right.
But he's a good character. He has a great power base.
Yep.
I think he has been he's been neutered.
Yes.
And he can do so much more.
Right.
But they just put him off as this. He's kind of like a leader, but like a sideline character.
Yeah.
He sidelines Wolverine
in the movies. Yeah.
In anything.
So.
But
in
he's
the
definitely
comics,
underrated.
you get to see his leadership, though.
Right.
And even in the animated series, I think that's the big piece. James Marsden, I think, was the guy who played him. He was a dick. He pulled that off.
Right.
But they didn't let that character really be the leader of the X-Men.
Right.
And then in the second, forget about it. They wanted freaking Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique to be the leader of X-Men. So don't even get me started on that. But anyway, this week on Hidden Gem, what you got going on, Adrian?
All right. This week's Hidden Gem. So this week's Hidden Gem is not a hidden gem, but a gem nonetheless. We're going to put this on the shelf of powers not being portrayed properly.
Yep.
right? So this week's hidden gem is John Stewart's Green Lantern. All right. Now, we had Hal Jordan. He was the original one. And then Hal, he went out into the universe. He pissed off the Guardians and did a lot of stuff. But ultimately, he became like, I forget what they call it, but he became like a step up. So he became like a guardian of the whole universe as opposed to just a sector, right?
Okay.
So what does that mean? Somebody's got to take over for on Earth. Well, it wasn't John Stewart at that time. I think it was Guy Gardner, that creep, right? So he took over. But apparently, the Guardians of Oa had always had their eye on John Stewart as a potential replacement for Hal Jordan in the case that something happened to him. Well, John Stewart, he grew up Detroit, poverty. Mother was an activist in the town. He wanted to do something with his life, and I'm not going to go too deep into his history because we all know it. But I want to focus on the powers. I'll get there in a minute. But he went into the Marines, became a sniper, got out the Marines, came and went back to school, got his degree in architecture, right? And that degree in architecture is important later when he becomes the Green Lantern. So at some point, the Guardians sent a manhunter to Earth basically to test John Stewart to see if he was what they thought that he was. And it turned out that he was. So they brought him to Oa, said, hey, we've been watching you, blah, 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 blah. So, but they didn't tell him that they sent the manhunter to Earth because he probably would have felt some kind of way about it and turned against them, right? Yeah. So ultimately, he got this Green Lantern ring. Now, the Green Lantern ring, we all know what it does. Gives you power of flight, speed, enhanced strength, cast illusions, the language translation thing.
Yeah.
Now, the Green Lantern's power comes from willpower. And there's different lanterns. Like you got the yellow, which is fear, right? Orange, which is greed. Red, which is rage. Then you get into all the other ones. I think there's like 9 of them. You got black, which is death. You got the star sapphire, which is love. But in researching this, I'm like, well, which one is the most powerful? Well, apparently they have a white lantern.
Okay.
And the white lantern is the most powerful because the white lantern is the amalgamation of all the color spectrum. So they can use any of the lantern colors or their powers per se. So the white lantern is the most powerful. All right. So John Stewart, he's been said that besides his military background and his architectural thing, one of his things is that so the Green Lantern allows you to make constructs out of the ring, right? Well, all other Green Lanterns create basically hollow constructs, right? John creates constructs because of his architectural mind from the inside out.
Okay. His
is completely solid, so they're more intricate.
Yeah.
Right. And one of his favorite constructs is like they said that he can reproduce constructs down to like the isotope level. Right. So they're meaning they're more formidable, they're more complex, they're probably capable of doing more. And as a sniper in the Marines, one of his favorite construct is his sniper rifle or his like a machine gun kind of a construct. Now, he's been said that, and because of that, he's been labeled a master builder, meaning he can, obviously create these constructs more detail. Mm-hmm. Besides that, as a Green Lantern, he's considered one of the most powerful Green Lanterns because his will. It's been said that his will can supersede the power that the ring is able to even give him.
Okay.
So, like you look at Hal Jordan, I mean, you see like the early Green Lanterns, they come up with these stupid clamps and bats and, all this crap. And then they go up against like Sinestro, and the yellow just is always decimating, the green. The red is always decimating the green. I'm like, they're punks. I mean, why would you start out with a Lantern Corps and the Green Lantern is the most prominent, but they apparently are the weakest? Well, it's because there's apparently a shortage of willpower in the universe, but fear. Oh yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Rage, yeah, we can do that. But willpower, not so much with John Stewart. So he's considered one of the more powerful Lanterns. Now, the reason that he's the hidden gem this week is because at some point he got exposed to this what they call it, the Godstorm power, right? And the Godstorm power basically is like the Green Lantern power without the need for the ring or the lanterns.
Okay.
So now this power is in him.
And how do you get this?
I forget how, but he was exposed to it some kind of way. I get it to you at some point.
Yeah.
But
once he had this, he didn't need the ring anymore.
He didn't need the ring anymore. So he's able to create these constructs. Not only that, he had a ascended physiology, right? But the power that he currently has, so it's almost like a mutant power that came out later. Mm-hmm. So whatever he's displaying now, he has actually more of it. It just hasn't shown up yet. So energy absorption, superhuman strength. Now this is without the ring, right? Invulnerability. He's had prolonged direct blast from dark side, flight, being able to self-propel himself without the ring, right? Yeah. Electromagnetic spectrum manipulation, create constructs on his own, cosmic awareness, size alterations. He can increase or like a giant man.
Yeah.
What else? Teleportation, reality alteration. This power within him is his source. He doesn't need the lantern anymore. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't need any outside power source to give him the powers that he has, right? Got it. And besides that, he got the military stuff, the will, the leadership. So this guy has grown to be, he actually became like an ambassador in the Green Lantern Corps. The Guardians made him a guardian, like themselves, in order to watch over certain parts of Oa. Then he went on to become this delegate and start, it's just crazy. So Hal Jordan was considered one of the most powerful or one of the best Green Lanterns. But I think John Stewart, even without this Godstorm power that he absorbed, reached that level. And then, of course, Hal Jordan, he's been, infected with, aliens, went crazy, killed destroyed Oa, the Guardians, blah, 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 blah. So, but that's this week's hidden gem, John Stewart. I think things like that get brushed under, the carpet. Yeah. Now, the other reason I bring this up is because this is another one of these guys where even if they did bring him out, they couldn't portray that kind of power. Right. I mean, we just talked about Cyclops. He's got one power. Exactly. Shoot some red stuff out of his eyes. And if we consider him, not portrayed properly in the comics or the movies, then somebody that can do all this stuff, most certainly. Right. But I just wanted to make sure that people understood the extent. I mean, he wasn't just a Green Lantern with a ring. Mm-hmm. He didn't get his power. He had power even before he got the ring. The ring made him more powerful, and then his Godstorm power made him even more so. Yeah. So, but that's it this week. John Stewart, the Black Green Lantern.
Another great. I almost said another great Green Lantern. Another great hidden gem, Adrian. Couple questions to recap. So, why is John Stewart a hidden gem?
Well, because he's basically came along as a replacement. Yeah. He wasn't like an original. Okay. He was kind of like, it was like, okay, W messed up the presidency, so let's bring in Barack Obama to clean up things. So it's kind of like, let's just bring him in because, well, we don't have anybody else. Got it. But in the process, he outshined. Yeah. So many of his other predecessors. And then the Guardians are like, the Guardians are like the police, right? Mm-hmm. They have their own internal affairs. All kinds of crap, right? Yeah. But out of all the Guardians across all the universe, right? He stands out amongst all of them, even superseding Hal Jordan. So that in itself makes him, I think, a hidden gem.
Makes sense. Now, you did some research, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. What's the most interesting thing you learned about John Stewart doing this research?
That he got this Godstorm power.
Yeah.
No longer needs a ring. I think the lantern rings kind of limited him.
Okay.
He was relying upon it. You got to charge the thing every once in a while. And his will.
It's like a Tesla.
Okay.
You charge it all the time. You know?
Exactly. So he was dependent on that for his power, but now he has his power in him. So I think that equals who he actually is.
Yeah. And when were you first exposed to this character?
When was I first exposed? Obviously, that was Hal Jordan first.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised. Probably 10 years ago, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's not like I was looking for him.
Right.
But he just all of a sudden, okay, we got a black Green Lantern. He doesn't wear a mask, that little slim mask, like all the other lanterns be messing with Hal Jordan about.
Mask or something like that.
What was that?
I think, is it called the domino mask?
I don't know what kind of mask it's called, but it's like it just covers his like eyes, right? Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
But John Stewart doesn't wear it.
Mask. Yeah, that's the name.
That's a stupid name.
Yeah, you know how I know that? So I was a while back I was researching like the creation of Batman, and they were talking about, or I guess originally, and in the text it said originally he was gonna have a domino mask. I'm like, what the hell's a domino mask? But yeah, it's the little. It just covers. It doesn't really cover anything. It just covers your eyebrows pretty much and the bridge of your nose. But anyway, well, dude, another great hidden gem. If you like that hidden gem, obviously you did, or you wouldn't still be watching, right? Check out the Hidden Gem playlist on our YouTube page where you can check every past Hidden Gem that Adrian broke down for us here on Only Comics. So up next, we like to do a little something on Only Comics that's called Agree to Disagree. And this is something that we do. Adrian, I think the main reason I like doing this is I'm trying to educate our viewers, okay? That, number one, we don't know everything. You will actually learn that by some of my statements here, because you'll be like, I don't agree with that, and that's cool.
Right.
But one thing you'll notice is we won't agree on everything.
Right.
And I will not get upset if you don't agree with me on something. And I don't think you'll get upset if I don't agree with you.
Right.
Now, some of our viewers, we cannot make that same statement for, because some of them get very upset.
That's okay.
And that's all right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to rapid fire 10 of my opinions at Adrian, and Adrian's just going to let us all know if he agrees or disagrees. And then once we're done, you guys can do the same.
Let's do it.
You ready?
Ready.
All right. The Spider-Man live-action movie rights would be better off with Marvel 100%.
Absolutely. I agree.
The Flash is faster than Superman.
Absolutely.
Alexander's ship was a better Storm than Halle Berry.
Agree.
Andrew Garfield was an amazing Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
Agree. I won't call him amazing.
Okay.
But he definitely fit the physical build.
Okay.
So I'll go with that.
All right,
let's go with disagreeing. That's disagree.
Yeah. See, I'm not even upset. I'm not going to storm out, The Daredevil show is the best of the Marvel Netflix shows.
Agree.
The Batman is better than Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Agree.
The Batman is better than Zack Snyder's Watchmen.
That should have been one question. Agree.
And last but not least, actually I have 9 this week. I'd rewatch Echo before I'd rewatch The Flash.
Agree.
There we go. You only had one disagree this week. There we go. And I'm not paying him to agree with me. Let me be like, he agrees too much. Well, dude, I don't know what to tell you. All right. Well, there is Agree to Disagree. Now, you guys, let us know what you think. Now, a few weeks ago, Adrian, on Agree to Disagree, I made a statement. Mm-hmm. I said that the Justice League would be destroyed by the 7 from The Boys. Okay. And this is one that most people did not agree with us. Actually, I don't know that anyone really agreed with us. Right. Now, you know what? I think we'll get into this next week. Because I have some new thoughts, and I don't let's just say I've taken in a lot of what our viewers have said. I've taken a lot of their statements into consideration. and let's revisit this next week.
Okay.
So another thing we're going to revisit next week. So I got a package in the mail the other day. We talk about independent comic creators, Adrian. I got an email a few months back from a couple comic creators from the UK. They said that, hey, we love your show. We'd love for you to review our new comic that we're putting together. So they asked me if I would. I said, of course. So they sent us this package here, dude. We got this comic here. It's Extraman. All right. The premise, I do know this. It's about an individual who, due to police brutality, what a surprise, shocker. This is based on a true story. He became a paraplegic. I think he even lost a child. And his wife basically built him some type of super suit with alien tech, and he's now a superhero. Okay. So that's the premise. I'm interested. So you see the comic here. It's a little fun-looking artwork there, right? And what else we got in here? Let's see. It's like an unboxing, Adrian.
Yeah,
I'm
Christmas.
like one of those kids. All right, I think that's everything. Got some Extraman stickers in, or like a bookmark. Oh, okay. So when you're reading the comic,
there you go.
You won't lose your spot like that. Got some stickers over here. That's pretty cool. And then we got a little card here. So Kindred Comics is the name of the company. And we will share some information on them if you want to check them out. But we're going to check out this book, Adrian. We'll review it next week.
Cool.
They asked us to. I said I would. We will. One thing we don't do here is lie. We don't lie. We may change our opinions. But
there you go.
We're not going to lie to you. All right. So we were talking earlier, Adrian, about the whole Sony versus Marvel, right? Okay. So I figured, why not? Let's just have a little discussion about Sony versus Marvel. Okay. When it comes to Spider-Man, and maybe at the end, now we did say and agree to disagree that we both think the Spider-Man rights would be better off with Marvel Studios, right?
I think that Marvel disseminating its control over its properties was a mistake. However it came about, for whatever reason, I'm on the outside, of course, looking in. But the fact that Marvel doesn't control its own characters is sad to me. So now Sony has a couple of characters and Disney has the rest. Right. And I think that both of those companies aren't set up to deal with comics, especially Disney. Disney is a, kids. Right. A corporation per se. And comic books are rated PG-13 and above. Yep. Mostly are. Most of them, yeah. Some of them are X. And Disney, in the hands of Disney, it feels like a mismatch to me. Yes. So it's not just Sony. Yeah. It's the fact that their properties are not in absolute control of Marvel is correct. My issue. Well, this is it's still Disney because Disney still owns Marvel. So this debate right now that they're having is Disney versus Sony. Right. Right. I say that I do think the rights would be better off with Disney because of the MCU and because of what they've been able to do there. Well, if it's going to be in the hands of, so you take it out of the hands and you put it in Disney, but you got this other character over here, right? Yep. If it's got to be in one of those, I would say Disney, definitely. Right. Got it. So that's what we're saying now. And we'll walk through some facts, some stats, some data, and see if we still feel that way at the end. I think I will. So you mentioned, or you said, you don't really know how they got the rights. So I did a little homework, dude. Okay. I'm gonna do my best Reader's Digest version of what happened. Okay. So Spider-Man was created in 1962 by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. I think most of us know that. Yeah. There actually were some Spider-Man movies in the 70s. 1977, there were some made-for-TV, or as you'd call them, direct-to-VHS movies. Right. Did you see any of these? Oh, yeah. Yeah? That was my first exposure movie-wise. Just like that Spider-Man, of course, that's like 20 years after the Adam West Batmans and stuff. Yeah. But it was still cool. Yeah. But then, comes the Hulk, that shitty Thor, with the I don't know, the bear fur things or whatever. Kraven the Hunter. Yeah, exactly. So, but that Spider-Man and he was also a good Spider-Man. Yeah. He represented, It was good. I enjoyed it. It was a trilogy of movies. Okay, that was 77. Yep. And then in 1999, Sony bought the rights for $7 million. So at the time, Marvel, there was no Marvel Studios. Right. They
Marvel didn't make comic book movies yet. That Blade may have just came out. Maybe was Blade late 90s?
I'm not sure.
I think Blade may have been their only movie, but they didn't have a studio to create movies like they do now.
Right.
So they were selling their rights. They sold their X-Men rights to Fox. They sold Spider-Man rights to Sony for $7 million. What that got them was exclusive rights of the entire Spider universe and over 900 characters. And then there was a stipulation with the deal, and I think this still exists. The deal would continue as long as Sony put out at least one Spider-Man movie every 5.75 years. Every 5 3/4 of a year, they have to put out at least one Spider-Man movie to maintain the rights, which they have. Sony made 2 animated shows and 5 films, live action. The animated series in the 90s, I enjoyed, though. One of them, I don't know which one they're talking about, but do you remember the one that came out in like early or mid-90s?
I remember one that I didn't like because of the character. I mean, the way it was drawn. It was just too, like, you know, like it's hard to describe.
A little too bulky?
Yeah. It was just kind of rounded.
Yep.
Like, looked like a Daffy Duck kind of rendition.
And then they made the Sony, Sony then made a series of movies. They made 5 live action movies, 3 with Tobey Maguire, 2 with Andrew Garfield.
Okay.
I mean, I think that there's some great movies in there. There's a couple bad ones. The first Spider-Man is a classic to me.
Yep.
Spider-Man 2, I love. Spider-Man 3 is a mess. The Amazing Spider-Man 1, I thought was a great movie. Amazing Spider-Man 2 was somewhat of a mess, somewhat okay. So they did pretty good.
Okay.
Now you got to see the 70s Spider-Man. What did you think of the Tobey Maguire movies when those came out?
Well, when the Tobey Maguire came out, so when the 70s Spider-Man, it was like, okay, I see it, it's cool.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as exciting as the Tobey Maguire one. It was just a different level. I was at a different, obviously older. So I was able to appreciate it more than, so it's like the kids watching Popeye versus a teenager, young adult watching, I don't know, the Terminator or something.
Yeah.
So it's a different point of view. So I enjoyed the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. I wouldn't even compare the two, really.
Yeah.
So it was definitely more enjoyable than the 70s, but only because my perspective was different.
Right. But yeah, I love those movies. I mean, even like I said, third one was still a mess, but I still enjoyed it. You know? And then there were some issues with the fourth one. I guess the director and Sony didn't really see eye to eye, and because there was supposed to be a fourth Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, and then the third one was like critics tore it apart, so that didn't help, and they canceled it. They did the reboot with Andrew Garfield. Did you like those movies?
No,
really, not at all.
No.
I like the first one. I really like Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man Peter. And then the second one had Jamie Foxx's Electro, but he was all blue. They kind of really screwed that up. But I like the way they handled the death of Gwen Stacy, and that was some cool scenes. But his third movie also got canceled.
Right.
There's been all kinds of rumors. There's actually a rumor there was a rumor in the past that Tom Holland was going to show up in Madam Web. Not even rumor, they wanted that to happen, and then they were talking about having Tobey Maguire show up there. There's also talks now about Andrew Garfield getting another Spider-Man movie, getting Amazing Spider-Man 3, so all kinds of shit. But basically, Sony had the rights up until 2015, I believe, and this is when Disney and Sony had this kind of licensing agreement where they kind of leased the characters to Disney. So this is where we saw what it allowed was Spider-Man to enter the MCU. We saw Spider-Man in Civil War, and then the MCU made their trilogy of Spider-Man movies, Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. And actually, before No Way Home came out, I don't know if you remember this, but in 2019, Disney and Sony split, and Sony took back the Spider-Man rights, and then fans lost their shit. And then they ended up patching everything up and continuing the deal, came out with No Way Home, the whole deal. The MCU Spider-Man, how do you feel about Tom Holland's portrayal?
I think that out of the 4 Spider-Mans that I've seen, including the 70s, Tom Holland solidified that role for himself.
Yeah.
So he did an excellent job. He continues to do an excellent job.
Yep.
At it. I hope we see him. And I also like the fact that they move him around on different platforms and stuff too.
Right.
So that's cool.
Oh, like how he pops in all the other movies.
Yep.
Yeah, because he was in, think about movies. So Sony came out with Spider-Man, the first one in 2002, Spider-Man 2 in 2004, Spider-Man 3 in 2007, The Amazing Spider-Man in 2012, Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 2014, right? Spider-Man debuts Tom Holland's Spider-Man in Civil War in 2016. That's crazy that was only 2 years after Andrew Garfield's.
Right.
Spider-Man Homecoming drops in 2017 the next year. In 2018, we see Spider-Man in Infinity War. And then in 2019, we see him in Endgame and Far From Home. And then in 2021, No Way Home. Dude, we've had a Spider-Man movie like almost every other year for the better part of like 20 years.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, but that's cool though. And that's
yeah.
also speaks to how popular he is across the world,
Yep. Now, part of Sony's deal allows them to make these movies like Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, which is coming up, Craven, and then now Venom 3. So they're allowed to use those characters in their own movies. But I guess for some reason, I don't know if they can't put Spider-Man or they're just hesitating. I've also heard the rumor that those villains take place in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Verse, and he's going to show up at some point. Who the hell knows?
They should just stop. Stop with the nonsense. I mean, there is no Andrew Garfield. There is no Garfield universe, a Tobey Maguire. There's a timeline.
Yeah.
Just forget all this universe and splitting. It's too complicated.
Yes.
It's just, it's too complicated. Just leave it alone.
Yep. Now, two other movies, though. This may sway your opinion a little bit. Because they also Sony came out with Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. So it's like, you look at better movies, it's really hard. Like, I would say those movies are better than the MCU movies.
I agree, but they're also different characters.
Right.
You don't have 3 Spider-Mans playing Peter Parker.
Sure.
But you have a Miles Morales, which is a completely different universe. So that's understandable. But when you got 3 guys fighting for the same suit, that's ridiculous to me.
But does that sway your opinion? Like, because if Sony didn't have the Spider-Man rights, we never would have had those movies. Could Marvel Studios make movies as good as the Spider-Verse movies?
I don't know, because if the Miles Morales hadn't come around, I would probably not be as big of a fan as
Spider-Man?
Of Spider-Man, because they have portrayed him so poorly over the years. So in other words, in the absence of something I've never experienced, I wouldn't be able to tell you how I felt about it because I never experienced it.
Gotcha.
Oh, you like that multiverse language
I
there?
like that.
So, but I mean, the Miles Morales thing is great.
Yeah.
But I just think they got lucky. And they was able to repeat it, but I think they got lucky.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a different ballgame. So to me, I can't, because we're talking live action, so I can't really give them credit for that when it comes to the live action movies.
Oh, okay.
And I'm saying, I'd be okay if freaking Sony kept the animated rights and give the live action rights to Disney.
Yeah.
I'd be cool with that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got a couple questions to wrap this thing up, Adrian. So there's 3 Spider-Men in the live action Sony universe. You got Tobey Maguire, or 2. I'm sorry, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. And you got Tom Holland in the MCU. So out of the 3, who had the best first movie in their series? Was it Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man? Was it Garfield's Amazing? Or was it Spider-Man Homecoming? Best movie of the 3.
I'm going to go with the Tom Holland. Even though my overall, I would say, is Tobey Maguire, because it's more impactful for me. Yeah. Because he was like, out of the gate, okay, this they introduced the new Spider-Man, because before that was the 70s guy, right? So that was the most impactful for me. Okay. I would say the better portrayal was the Tom Holland, but the Tobey Maguire was probably the better.
Okay. So which one are you picking for better movie?
The Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire. I agree with that. Who's had the best suits in their movies?
The Tom Holland.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this first Stark suit, the blue and red one's amazing. And then when they switch it to red, the Iron Spider, he's had amazing suits.
Right. I've always been a fan of like the big eye thing. I
love how they move too.
Yeah.
Who would win in a fight out of the 3?
Tobey Maguire. I mean, Tom Holland.
I think so too.
Because of that, not only because of he seems to be a little bit more matured.
Yeah.
Plus, he also has the tech.
Yeah.
On top of that.
And for me, I feel like based off of what they've done in their movies, I think Tom Holland's Spider-Man's stronger. Just how he's been portrayed. Like they portrayed him as if his powers were stronger. I know they're all Spider-Man, but
right. Well, technically, they're all Peter Parker.
Yeah.
So their upper limit is around 10 tons.
Yeah.
But I think what they've done over the years is they've been able to portray the power better.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say any of them would defeat any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, if they went in, Tom Holland would win.
Yeah.
Because he has the edge of the tech.
Right.
But outside of that power,
I think he'd outsmart the other two.
It would basically be they would all throw the same punch at the same time and knock each other out all at the same time.
Who had the best great responsibility moment? You know, in Tom Holland, it was Aunt May who died.
Yeah.
The other two, it was the Uncle Ben. Which scene would you say was better?
I'm gonna go with the Tobey Maguire one.
I agree. Yeah, that was that when he ran out with the whole. He went to the wrestling match.
Right.
That was cool.
Yeah, and
just the fact that he let the guy go.
Yep.
You know, because the promoter stiffed him on his money, so he.
Right.
So anyone who hasn't seen it really would shock me that you're watching this. But anyway, Spider-Man enters a wrestling contest to win some money. He wins the money. The purse was supposed to be, I think, like $1,000. Dude only gave him like a fraction of it. And then the same guy gets robbed. And when Spider-Man says that you didn't pay me enough, he goes, "Not my problem." And then when the guy gets robbed, this dude runs off and he's like, "Hey, stop him!" And he kind of hits him with the same shit. He's like, "Not my problem, dude."
Right.
But that's the guy who ends up killing Uncle Ben.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Best one. Who had the better villains?
Probably Garfield, because I didn't like the Mysterio within the Tom Holland one.
Yeah.
Only because he ended up being just like a shyster.
Right.
And that's not who Mysterio is.
Yeah, they really.
So I didn't like that. They pooch screwed that character. So I didn't like that. It was more like a negative. That took away from the whole thing as opposed to being even neutral.
Right.
So probably was the Rhino in the Garfield one?
The mechanical Rhino was, yeah.
That was shitty.
Yeah.
Okay. What's his face?
Tobey
Maguire. I would say Tobey Maguire.
I agree. I said, I was thinking about it. Tom Holland's villains. Well, the villains in his third movie were mostly Tobey Maguire's villains. I mean, Norman Osborn was the best villain of No Way Home.
Right.
You know. Right. So yeah. And then we had Sandman in there, who was in Spider-Man 3. We had Doc Ock, who great villain.
Right.
That dude's I forget the actor's name, but great portrayal of Doc Ock. Last question: who had the best Aunt May?
The best or the hottest?
Well, we know who the hottest was.
Okay.
Tobey Maguire's, obviously. Just kidding. No, we know it's Tom Holland's. But who are the best Aunt May?
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, Tobey with the win, man.
Yeah.
Man. So there you have it, dude. I guess, hey, you guys let us know if you agree. It's kind of like a bonus agree to disagree almost. Yeah. This was kind of reverse. Adrian let me, you busted out the agrees. All right, last thing before we wrap this up, we got a fun segment. It's fun for me. It's called We Respond. So I didn't even tell you we're doing this today, did I? Just every once in a while. So I got a handful of comments that you guys had left us here. Go ahead.
Hold on before you get into that. So you asked me earlier, how did John Stewart get those God powers?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
So apparently, Darkseid, his whole siblings, they consider themselves gods, right?
Yep.
Then there's this subset called the New Gods, right? Well, there's this one new god called Lonar. He met up with John Stewart, and they went basically on this trip. And during this trip, Lonar helped, and Lonar is like a loner for the New Gods. He don't like to hang out with the rest of the kids, right? Okay. So he took him on this trip, and he helped him ascend. And during that trip is when he got those powers, which is why Lonar is also the same person that says, well, we're just seeing the beginning of your powers. Whatever you're displaying now, it's only going to magnify. So he basically ascended to godhood.
Got it.
John Stewart. So he got him during this excursion with this new god, Lonar.
Yep. Okay. Well, there you have it. Nice follow-up to Hidden Gem. Now we're going to follow up to some of you guys. So, and we mean this with love, right? You know, we appreciate you guys watching it. And I mean, it's all for fun. You know, we get some stuff like, you know, some non-offensive things like Nolan Smith, 1526 on TikTok says, best fight scenes, Superman versus Zod in Man of Steel. That's the best fight scene in any comic movie. What would you say to that, Adrian? Your face kind of says it all.
I no comment. I mean, that's just silly.
That's silly. John Griffin on TikTok says, Captain America Winter Soldier is the greatest comic book movie of all time. Now, I love that movie, but greatest of all time, that's a major stretch. Dude.
Yeah, that's like
maybe he hasn't seen other movies. Like, have you not seen Infinity War yet? Or like Endgame hasn't come out where you live? I don't know. Like, where John Griffin, where are you from, bro? How are you saying that?
Right. Let's just say it's a stretch.
It's a major stretch. Amazing movie, though.
Yeah.
It's not even the best Captain America movie.
Right.
Civil War is, you know, better than Winter Soldier. But anyway, so remember D9 last week? He said those that doesn't get that moment don't like that moment or something like that.
Yeah.
My man, son of Sekhmet, says D9 doesn't get grammar. You know what, son of Sekhmet, I agree with you.
I'm glad our fans can respond to other fans.
Yes, absolutely.
On our behalf.
Right.
And that's cool.
We got Dan XPX on TikTok says, still waiting for an explanation of the ridiculous statement of the 7 beats the Justice League.
Wow.
Hey, tune in next week.
Right.
That's all I have to say about that. What else we got? We got, you know, we talked about Scarlet Witch when she killed Black Bolt by sewing his mouth shut. And you know what? I've also learned this recently. In the comics, Black Bolt is immune to his own powers, right?
Typically, imagine, you know, speaking to your arm and your arm falls off. I mean, come on.
Right. So we had some people say that, and this guy, Rob Rudeboy Jr. says, he used his power right when Scarlet Witch closed his mouth, which caused him to kill himself. And yes, that whole scene sucked, laughing, like just mocking him. Like, yeah, when he used it right at that exact moment and he froze. So Rob Rudeboy Jr., we're on the same page.
Right,
bro. What else we got? We have my man Sam Reddick says Eternals get so much hate, so underrated.
I agree that the Eternals as a team, as individuals, are underrated. The Eternals movie just sucked. And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the characters. There were some cool characters in there. It's just how they portrayed the characters in the movie. It was just bad.
Right.
You know.
Z says 100% Wonder Woman mops the floor with 95% of the league's members. We said last week that I actually said that Wonder Woman would beat the devil out of Superman.
Right.
Most people agree with us. There's a few outliers that didn't, but Z says that 100% she would mop the floor.
Absolutely.
I agree with that, right?
Wonder Woman is, I mean, she hasn't been a hidden gem, but again, her power set is just off the chart. And so the reason that 7 can destroy the Justice League is not about power. We'll get into that later.
Right.
So it's not just about power, which is the same reason that why Wonder Woman came off the floor with most of the Justice League.
Yep.
Her mentality about getting to the point is different than theirs, which gives her the advantage.
You're going to love this one. Brandon Washington on TikTok says, I could beat Wolverine. Just get a large magnet. Wolverine is a joke. Brandon, you wouldn't be able to lift the magnet big enough to capture Wolverine. Like, it just wouldn't happen, dude. That's just funny. Wolverine is a joke. Now, you're a big Wolverine guy. What would you say to someone that says Wolverine's a joke?
Definitely not a joke. I mean, people say anything to get their 5 seconds of whatever.
Exactly.
But, and I think that's what it is.
On that note, we gave him his 5 seconds.
Exactly.
It's over. All right, what else? Well, we got another one that says they're asking us about the Boys versus Justice League next week, guys. Promise next week, okay? User with a bunch of numbers 872. Like, bro, get a TikTok name, please. Like, it really takes like 2 seconds. We'll give you one if you want. All right, but what he says is Phoenix is too powerful for the Justice League. I agree, 100%.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And then we have a couple people on YouTube. This guy, All You Tried, said, y'all need to get a life. Touch grass, please. It's fictional. I'm just going to say, All You Tried. But it's like, do you not know these are fictional characters, Adrian?
I really?
Yeah, like no shit.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then my man, Mr. Coder X and we'll wrap with this one on YouTube says, he's talking about Black Bolt. So according to the comics, he's immune to his own powers, so he shouldn't have died. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So there you have it. Another week on Only Comics. Thank you for sitting with us for this ride here. And if you've enjoyed this, like I know you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you haven't already, why haven't you subscribed if you've watched this whole video? And share it with somebody you know who also loves comics. And you know where to find us every week right here, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, YouTube on Only Comics. Adrian, thanks for coming in.
As always.
And we'll be back at you next week. And next week, you're going to get the we're going to follow up with the whole 7 versus Justice League. Maybe we'll change our stance. Maybe we won't. Find out then. We'll see you.